Greetings and welcome to this edition of the Global Healing Network. I'm your host, Dr. Kamau Kokayi, and I'm excited about today's program because of all the energy that's been focused on the fact that a Nobel Prize was actually shared by a Chinese scientist for her work around Artemisia. Artemisia is a Chinese herb that has been used for centuries to treat fever and for any number of illnesses. But she was given a Nobel Prize in part because they were able to synthesize the quote-unquote active ingredients for that and make a drug that is actually saving lives with respect to malaria. So the question that came up around the Nobel Prize is, are they really acknowledging Chinese medicine, or are they acknowledging the fact that someone actually synthesized a drug from that herbal medicine, a plant that had been already used for centuries, along with other plants to treat malaria and any number of illnesses. So I have with us today somebody who I feel strongly should be nominated and receive a Nobel Prize for the work that he has done in identifying a compound that will unsickle cells and sickle cell anemia, as well as having a host of other uses. Dr. Oji Agbai is our guest. He's a naturopathic physician, and he has various degrees. He's been through 5 major universities. He also has a Doctor of Divinity in Holistic Theology, and he's a board-certified naturopath. He's part of the American Society of Medical Technology. Suffice it to say, he has the technical kind of degrees that would allow him to pursue a hypothesis that actually led to development of a compound that in many ways it goes beyond just figuring out that there was something in a traditional system of healing. I won't even say healing, but in traditional lifestyle that protected people in Africa from malaria, and understanding the connection with this particular disease process we call sickle cell anemia, sickle cell disease, and various others what are called hemoglobinopathies. So with that said, I want to bring Dr. Agbai to the airways today. There's no video per se, but I think you'll find the conversation of how he figured this out and the work that's being done in this area very enlightening. Dr. Agbai, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Kokayi.
Right. So, you know what I always like to do to get people on board? I want you to share a couple of cases where the product that you developed, Discovite, right, actually made a huge difference in the lives of just everyday people.
Okay. Thank you for that privilege. In terms of the history of Nobel Prize and the thing I'm going to share with you guys about some of the spectacular cases is I have this thing, I call it historical and clinical significance of Discovite in the eradication of sickle cell disease. And I said in 1910, Dr. James Herrick discovered sickle cells by means of light microscopy. And then in 1950s, Dr. Linus Pauling discovered sickle cell hemoglobin SS by means of electrophoresis. and he called sickle cell anemia a molecular disease and got a Nobel Prize award for that. Then I said, in 1986, Dr. Oji Agbai discovered diascorbate by means of scanning electron microscopy. He patented diascorbate, and diascorbate is a molecular remedy for sickle cell that is now saving lives and stopping sickle cell crisis and raising hemoglobin levels and restoring health and energy. This represents our contribution towards the eradication of sickle cell anemia worldwide. I said, God bless the world through diascorbate.
So,
some of the spectacular cases I have now, one of them comes all the way from Kenya. He said, dear Dr. Agbai, we thank God for using you to make our life better with diascorbate. I have just finished using the first bottle of it on my 14-year-old daughter in May of 2013, and her hemoglobin moved from 7.6 to 12.4, and his platelet levels are good, and the doctor treating her has noticed tremendous improvement and says that she's doing very well because on examination, her liver is no longer swollen. Her kidneys are okay. She is stronger and putting on weight, just to mention a few. God bless you so much. In fact, I have begun a campaign of letting many people learn of this great remedy by literally talking and spreading the gospel of diascorbate. The next one is, dear Dr. Agbai, first and foremost, thank you for the support you provided us over the years. When I called you, we were full of fear and uncertainty about my son's health. He has sickle cell anemia and was 3 months at the time we initially spoke. With a very calm and certain voice, you said you could help. And I am grateful that I listened to you. From the time he started diascorbate, his hemoglobin level had been 10.0. He has never experienced swelling, has never experienced pain, and has never experienced the yellowing of the eyes or jaundice or any other symptoms associated with the disease. He is very active and he has tons of energy and completely healthy. Today, he is 2 years old, and we have recently received his laboratory reports, and it is great news. His hemoglobin is 10.5, hematocrit is 31.5, and he is completely healthy. In addition to diascorbate, we pay close attention to his diet. The diets are good food, plenty of vegetables, plenty of water, and home-cooked food. We do not give him processed food and high fructose corn syrup. We feel blessed for his continued health. So this is just one out of many things. We have had cases where, for instance, the hemoglobin rose from 2.0 to 7.3 in 1 week, and somebody who had already been given up for dead. And so, in other words, he resurrected this person. And the list can go on, but I'm just saying, I'm just so
of
so
course.
grateful.
And I wanted people to hear that. And unfortunately, in regular medicine, those would be considered anecdotal reports. And a lot of times, anecdotal reports then lead to more serious investigation in terms of university hospitals. So I'm wondering, has anybody taken up that challenge in terms of doing any clinical trials? with Discovite?
Yes, it's an ongoing study, and that's one thing we're gonna do in the future. We're gonna do more. My son is right now involved in clinical research, and the focus is on diascovite and sickle cell. And so, not too long from now, we're going to embark on more elaborate studies because we want to bring this thing to the attention of the medical community because they are the ones who see the clients all the time. So that's something we are planning on. And we know it's going to be very expensive and things like that, but it's a necessity because they don't have any other thing really that works for sickle cell.
No, I understand. So let's go back and just talk about how you actually arrived at an understanding of, what was needed to actually treat this disease successfully.
Okay. Yes. The background of this is the reality that before I came to America, I was a nurse, and throughout the whole time I was there, I did not even know anything about sickle cell. And when I arrived here, my training in graduate school and School of Medical Technology, I was surprised to see so many cases of this. And I wonder, what is the matter here? I know Africans and African Americans have the same roots. Why is it that I'm seeing a proliferation of the disease here in America and didn't even know anything about it back home in Africa? And so I began to link the whole thing to diet. I said there must be a difference between the diet here. Of course, there's a big difference, the diet here and diet over there. And I began to analyze a comparative study of the African food analysis and then the American food. And found out that the African food have factors that are very beneficial for stopping the sickle cell episodes. And there was a typical case in Little Rock, Arkansas, where a young lady, 30 years old, did not even know she had sickle cell until she arrived here. And when she arrived here, 6 months after she arrived here, she went into crisis.
She came here from Africa. She came here from Africa. She came here from Africa?
She came here from Africa, but because she was eating the good food in Africa that contained what we call the protective factor, she did not have an episode. But when she came here, because American food are different and they are deficient in that protective factor, she went into crisis. Those are the links that really led me. And I proceeded by, first of all, analyzing the American foods and finding they have really very low levels of this. And then the African foods had abundance of it. And I went further to do the electron microscopy studies and hemoglobin solubility studies. And I found out, yes, the factors from the African food were very, very effective in stopping sickling and in fact reversing sickling. And so that is very, that's how I came up with the whole idea of diascovite.
So let me back up and running the risk of getting a little bit technical. With sickle cell, we say that there are different types of hemoglobin molecules, and we talk about electrophoresis. We're saying that within that molecule, there are different structures or different kind of proteins, in this case, certain nucleic acids, right? So are you saying that the regular hemoglobin and then the hemoglobin S in sickle cell, that somehow at the molecular level through eating certain foods within a traditional African diet, that there's substances that actually do what to that hemoglobin molecule?
Okay, what it does to the hemoglobin molecule is the reason why the cells sickle in the first place is because of that genetic mutation on position 6 of beta chain of hemoglobin. And that position, glutamic acid is a normal component of that section, but in that mutation, this valine displaced it. And so the difference between the two amino acids is that valine is zero, is zero charge, whereas glutamic acid is negatively charged. And so because of that, see, electrophoresis means the migration of molecules in electric field. That's what Linus Pauling used. And he found out that the hemoglobin S, because it has a zero charge on that position, so it has a very low electrophoretic mobility, and so that's why it does not. It's very slow electrophoretic mobility. It does not move as hemoglobin A, which has that negative charge, that glutamic acid on that position 6. And so what we found is that the molecule, the nutrients from Africa, the African diet, acts very much like a structural analog of glutamic acid. It restores the negative charge that was lost on that mutation point. And so it makes the hemoglobin, we have had cases where when people are taking the ascorbate, in electrophoresis, they see a double band instead of just one band that is, you see, sickle-cell.
So it normalizes that diagnostic test.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So this is what's amazing to me, because Linus Pauling went as far as to prove that it was a molecular disease because he could show through this electrophoresis that the hemoglobin molecule is different for people that have sickle cell disease. But you actually took it several steps further, because not only did you have to figure out, well, what's the nature of this difference, and looking at the diet, but then you had to really narrow it down to not only the food, but I know you actually got it down to what specific chemicals are actually needed to actually reproduce that negative charge, like with glutamic acid in the hemoglobin molecule, and that is really pretty amazing.
Oh, thank you, Doctor. Thank you. That's why it is my joy now to share with you, with the audience here, that now there is a solution for sickle cell worldwide because of the power of this research. And by the way, the research is patented, and you see the U.S. patent is such you have to, before you get a patent here, it has to meet with all kinds of stringent scientific scrutiny, because once you get it, it's worldwide and it's permanent. And so that's what is the power of the electron microscopy and the power of the other studies we did to discover diascorbide are just so enormous, and that I thought God has really revealed this molecule, this science to the whole world, so as to stop the sickle cell problem that are killing so many millions of people every year. And that's why I made a comment about the letter I read to you about the woman whose son has a hemoglobin 10 and then has tons of energy. I said this letter is one out of many evidences of the power of diascorbide to eradicate sickle cell anemia worldwide.
Let me ask you, because I know that it's been used and it's being used to address other kinds of problems. And
yes.
So while the ingredients and certain aspects of a traditional African diet help to normalize the hemoglobin in terms of hemoglobin S, what effect does it have? How is it able to help other types of diseases? What other types of diseases has it helped in, and how is it doing that?
Okay. Oh yes, we have found out also that many chronic illnesses are really dietary deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies, or imbalances. For instance, we have had cases where diascorbide was also able to help somebody with prostate dysfunction. Okay, I call it dysfunction. Prostate dysfunction, the PSA was 13.3, and it took that for 5 weeks, and it came down, the PSA came down to 0.59. That is 96% reduction. And so the person went home healed. Another case was a case of colon dysfunction. In that case, something we call CEA, carcinoembryonic antigen. Oh goodness. It came down from, it was reduced 80%. And this one, it had metastasized, the colon dysfunction had metastasized to the spine, and the guy was in terrible pain. So within a month, it knocked it off and brought reduced the CEA 80%. Another case was a study done by our colleague in Atlanta, Dr. William Richardson.
Yes.
In that particular case was a very spectacular case of breast dysfunction, where because he had metastasized to the lungs, so the oxygen saturation was only 85%, and this person needed 4 liters of oxygen. But then within 1 week, it normalized liver enzymes was another issue. The liver enzymes came back to normal in a week. And then the oxygen saturation rose from 85% to 93%, and she needed less than 1 liter of oxygen. And so the list goes on. And we had a case in New York, right there at Bronx, a case where it also helped somebody who had a liver dysfunction. Okay? So anyway, it's just a multi-purpose. And also, so many other things it does. It's a vasodilator. It helps with the blood pressure as well.
So let me ask you, what, in any of these cases, has there been discussion, just figuring out what's the mechanism? Like, I totally get the mechanism by which Diascovite can help people with sickle cell, because I've looked at, the studies with respect to what's happening at the molecular level and what's actually provided by certain elements of African food. But with respect to, basically you're talking about cancers, right? What mechanism, is at work?
Yes. A number of things happen here. The same way the foods, the molecule in foods, is helpful with infections, for instance, because it breaks the peptidoglycan bonds on the bacterial cell walls, and that's the same thing it does for cancer, if you want to call it so, because there's something called sialemucin.
Right, a protective coat, right?
Yeah, a protective coat that protects cancers from being recognized by the body's immune system. We call that molecule, the nutrients from the African food, we call it a physiological solvent. It comes and breaks the bonds that protect cancer cells from being recognized and take up the sialemucin molecule completely. And so the cancer becomes bare and weak and vulnerable. And now the body's immune system will go after the cancer cell that initially were hidden from their view because they thought they were normal. Now it just unveils them, and then they become vulnerable, and the phagocytes will go and grab them and eat them up and destroy the whole thing and get the person free. Okay?
That's awesome. Well, Dr. Agbai, thank you for sharing that. And of course, I would like people to be able to contact you directly. So perhaps you can share whatever contact information that you would like, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Yes. I want to give you our website. Is diascova1.com. DIOSCO V like Victor ITE 1, not ON but 1.com. Diascova1.com. That's the website.
So let me say that as a practitioner who has used Discovite in my practice, I think I've had the two longest living sickle cell patients in New York State. I mean, they actually both passed away at this point, but I know I introduced them to Discovite, and I know that that was an important part of their regimen. And I've been following this as a practitioner probably for about more than 15 years.
Yes.
And, I'm amazed that, I know the kind of struggle that you've had to even make people aware of this. And I remember I did a radio interview with you on WBAI, and I think I had the head of Harlem Hospital's sickle cell unit actually joining that conversation, and she was just totally unaware of your work. And I'm not even sure if she followed up with you afterwards, but I mean, this is information that is just so invaluable. And seeing your own personal efforts with this, I can only applaud you and say that you are a real credit to the scientific community, to the African people in general. And I hope that you get the recognition that's due you. And
Thank you.
I need to let the listening audience know I have no monetary affiliation with Dr. Agbai, but I think that this is something that everyone needs to know about. So, again, thank you, and I'm sure we will have many more conversations like this.
All right, thank you, Dr. Kokayi. Let me give them my phone number, 918-627-7997.
Excellent, excellent.